Toad's Adventures, Part 4. Toad flung himself on the floor and abandoned himself to dark despair. "This is the end of everything," he said. "At least it is the end of the career of Toad, which is the same thing. The popular and handsome Toad. The Toad so free and careless and debonair. Stupid animal that I was. Oh, wise old badger. Oh, intelligent rat and sensible mole. Oh, unhappy and forsaken Toad." With lamentations such as these, he passed his days and nights for several weeks. Now, the gaoler had a daughter who was particularly fond of animals. This kind-hearted girl, pitying the misery of Toad, said to her father one day, "Father, I can't bear to see that poor beast so unhappy and getting so thin. Let me have the managing of him." Her father replied that she could do what she liked with him. He was tired of Toad and his sulks and his airs. So that day she knocked at the door of Toad's cell. "Cheer up, Toad," she said coaxingly, "and do try and eat a bit of dinner. I have brought you some of mine." But still Toad wailed and kicked with his legs and refused to be comforted, so the wise girl retired for the time. When she returned some hours later, she carried a tray with a plate piled up with very hot buttered toast. The smell of that buttered toast simply talked to Toad, talked of warm kitchens, of breakfasts on frosty mornings and cosy parlour firesides on winter evenings. Toad sat up, dried his eyes, munched his toast, and soon began talking about himself and how important he was, and what a lot his friends thought of him. The gaoler's daughter saw that the topic was doing him good and encouraged him to go on. When she said good night, Toad was very much the same self-satisfied animal that he had been of old. There had many talks together after that, and the girl grew very sorry for Toad. One morning she was very thoughtful. "Toad," she said presently, "I have an aunt who is a washerwoman." There," said the Toad affably. "Never mind, I have several aunts who ought to be washerwomen." "Do be quiet, Toad," said the girl. "You talk too much, and I'm trying to think. As I said, I have an aunt who is a washerwoman. She does the washing for all the prisoners in this castle. Now, you're very rich and she's very poor. A few pounds wouldn't make any difference to you, and it would mean a lot to her. Now, I think, if she were properly approached, she would let you have her dress and bonnet, and so on, and you could escape as the official washerwoman. You're very alike, particularly about the figure." "We're not," said the Toad in a huff. "I have a very elegant figure for what I am, and you wouldn't surely have Mr. Toad of Toad Hall going about the country disguised as a washerwoman." "You can stop here as Toad," replied the girl with much spirit. "I suppose you want to go off in a coach and four." Toad was already ready to admit himself in the wrong. "You are a good, clever girl," he said. "Introduce me to your worthy aunt, if you will be so kind." Next evening, the girl ushered her aunt into Toad's cell. In return for his cash, Toad received a cotton print gown, an apron, a shawl, and a rusty black bonnet. Shaking with laughter, the girl proceeded to hook and eye him into the gown and tied the strings of the bonnet under his chin. "You're the very image of her," she giggled. With a quaking heart, Toad set forth, but he was soon agreeably surprised to find how easy everything was. The washerwoman's squat figure seemed a passport for every barred door and groomed gateway. The humorous sallies to which he was subjected formed his chief anger, for Toad was an animal, with a strong sense of his own dignity. He kept his temper, however, though with difficulty. It seemed hours before he crossed the last courtyard and dodged the outspread arms of the last warder, pleading with simulated passion for just one farewell embrace. But at last he was free. He walked quickly towards the lights of town, not knowing what he should do next.